sun was coming on.
Oh, I gotta get my water. So we're live. Good evening. This is the comprehensive plan meeting. Sorry for starting a little late. Anyone watching?
I'm sure
What's the
there's
date?
a lot-
23rd?
Today is the 23rd of May, 2024. So we're here to kind of talk about, did everyone have a chance to go over,
I looked at the responses to this.
yeah, the full, was it 140 something? Do you remember?
Well, you mean the responses to the survey?
Yeah,
Yeah, I go through the whole thing. The only thing is that when it got to the numerical area, it was a little confusing in the sense that it showed the numbers and it showed comments, and the comments weren't always tagged to a question.
right. I think
So
there's like
they
an
make a lot of
other
sense.
section that allows people to, let's see if I can get it up here.
Yeah.
Source.
I mean, I think it was a good idea to do a survey, but
I think we've realized that there's certain things that have to be pared down. Like, I think we need to break up the lots into, are you in favor of 3 acre?
Yeah,
Or
more
5 acre.
definitive questions.
More definitive now. So now where we asked, let me get a Word document going so we can kind of do that at the same time.
Yeah, I saw that it appeared to be quite a bit of resistance to changing a lot size.
But that could be 3 acre, or it could be 5 acre, or it could be both, but let's find out. Because I mean, I could see people having serious hesitancy to changing 3 acres to 1.5. Or how do you do that? Or how is that fair to someone in a 5 acre lot if they ever want to pare down? So, or maybe people would rather be in favor of smaller clusters of 1.5 acre housing, but keep the
Well-
5 acre lots. I don't know, but I think that's a legit question to ask. The
And
numbers
I
of the
think
committee.
the other part of
Okay.
that is that right now we only have 3 zones.
Correct.
Commercial, general purpose, and residential. And, at one time, there was discussion about possibly having some overlap and having an expansion of those zones into different, maybe subzones or taking a whole look at it and say, is 3 enough? Or should we have different zoning? Or not different, but, what's the right word? Not different, but more, just maybe additional zoning or maybe more overlay
Overlay,
areas or something
Uh-huh.
to give a little more flexibility. Because right now, for the planning board, somebody came with a, 9.5 acre lot, they want to split it, they're in a general purpose zone. The answer is no, you can't do it. You go to the zoning board of appeals, but really, there's no legitimate grounds to appeal it. And, but you should make that case. But then, of course, the other side was, we were looking at Huff Road, people who live in general purpose said, hey, wait a minute, if you go
Correct.
residential, all these uses, yeah, we're grandfathered, but all these uses will not be allowed.
Right.
So then people get excited about that.
Right.
So I don't know how you solve that problem, except by taking an overall look at the zoning and saying, maybe there's some other options, I don't know.
Well,
And-
if you did something like that, and it would have to, in order to keep those uses,
Maybe,
you'd have to have a minimum of 5 acres. Maybe you call
Probably.
it something else, so you don't know, because you have general purpose, you might have, like you said, 9.5 acres.
Right.
Well, how do you get around, splitting off a house or whatever? If you did do that, but in order to have the benefits of the small business or whatever
yeah,
general
like the farm,
purpose
some
office,
of the farm guys.
yeah, you'd need a minimum of 5 acres.
Yeah, that's what they were saying, sort of, and then it turned out the applicant who was wanting to go to residential then said, hey, I don't want to disturb my neighbors, I'm going to withdraw my request.
Yeah.
Because the planning board was ready to send it, or the next option would be to send a written survey to all the people living there and saying, what is your feeling on this? And that applicant then said, well, look, I don't want to disturb my neighbors, so yanked the request, so
Right.
it went away
Yeah.
for now.
So I just changed it right now. Do you favor a reduction of minimum lot size requirements in the general purpose 5 acre district? Do you favor a reduction in minimum lot size requirements in the residential 3 acre district? Break them out. How would you like to phrase it?
But the only problem with that is what we just spoke about.
So do we take out the general in the residential and leave that battle for the next survey?
I'm just saying, if you get back a positive, a big positive, yes, I'm in general purpose, and, make it 2.5. The problem comes with, like what we discussed, having, a business there, or, I think that should, if you're gonna have a business, you should probably have that land for a buffer, the 5 acres.
So-
That's all I'm saying.
Depending on the business.
Well, and then that can be part of the question.
Yeah.
Do you know, like a question in the survey? So how would, and this is where it's like, okay, how do you do that? So it could be a sub question two, do you favor a reduction in, or it could be a totally separate question,
Yeah.
like, do you require businesses to have a 5 acre minimum lot for a business?
Well, that's what it is now.
Right,
So, do you favor a reduction of minimum lot size requirement in the general purpose 5 acre district? Question mark.
question mark.
If so,
Yeah, that's a good.
you know what I mean?
If
If so, basically realize that you will forego or potentially forego
Businesses
Some
will have
uses.
potentially.
some uses.
If so, this would potentially forego
Some
some,
uses,
Some business uses.
some
maybe, or
business uses, yeah.
In that district.
do you want like
Well,
that in parentheses?
not so much in that district, but in that situation, in that,
Or area?
On that lot.
on that lot.
That's very specific. I don't know.
Yeah.
On that lot. Do you want that like in a parentheses? If yes,
Yeah, okay.
so like parentheses?
Yeah,
So it's clear if they're saying yes.
I mean, you're right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that making sense?
I think
Well, it
so.
does to us, whether it makes sense to people.
I-
If people don't,
Uh,
reading.
Under-
They're not reading the zoning
understand.
ordinances.
I'm just wondering.
a yes.
I think we're both thinking the same thing. That if you cut it down to 2.5 acres, and you have a yard mechanic there, it's just gonna bring that closer to your neighbor.
It would.
So,
So does that make, so understanding a yes will potentially forego some business uses on that lot?
Yeah.
Is that a better way to phrase it?
Well, I would just say, please understand a yes would. I mean, I don't know if that's, it just. That was about that was one thing that did jump out at me, was the number that didn't want to change the lot sizes. Probably other information in there too, in that survey.
Or would it be like mentioning the status quo of a 5 acre business lot would still remain standard? With it,
Well, it doesn't have to, but,
well,
if you're in general, well, that's just a way of leaving it in general purpose, but having some sort of overlay. We can call it something
Well,
different if they choose to.
the other thing we have now, which is, I don't want to be negative, I'm just saying the way our ordinance is written now, which is, it's, if it's not allowed, you're not supposed to do it.
Right.
So, we have the tables and everything, and sometimes the wording there's wording in there, but
Still in the
not
words.
limited to,
Yeah.
but not always. So then somebody comes up with something that sort of sounds like a business, but then you're looking for an application, if you want. The planning board shouldn't be taking sides. They should be saying, okay, you want to spend your money to do this project, okay? Is there some way, but see, does it fit within the ordinance? If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit, but if it fits sort of,
right.
then do we have a use that supports that? And that's the problem. Sometimes the uses, they're listed, all these uses, but can you find a use that is a good example would,
Well, I thought, I understand where you're going, but I thought if it's not directly a no, if it's not mentioned as you can't do it, then you have leeway to be able to do
It's the other way. I mean, I think it's the other way because it lists, we list the 3 zones and it lists, okay, I don't know, church or something. Yeah, and it says whether you have to have a site plan review or, if it says no, it's supposed to be no. There's some uses, as I remember, I got the ordinance here, that you don't have to go to the planning board for. But if it says SR, their site plan review, you've got to go to the planning board, which means it's, quote, an authorized use if you meet all this other requirements, which
Okay.
includes setbacks and
So is it even worth mentioning right now in the
No.
survey?
don't confuse people too much.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, it's like,
Well, let's think for a second. What's the goal here? To go out with another survey?
yes,
Okay, to.
we're just starting it. So we
I'm
can
sorry?
leave this, we're just starting it, like,
Well, if you want to build on this last survey.
yeah, like, we're not gonna ask, how long have you lived here yet? We're not gonna
No,
ask,
no, that's silly.
how old are you? How many people are over 18? But we're not gonna ask those same questions. But once where we got responses back that really had some meaty responses, like people like asking, like, for instance, center of town. Where is the center of town? Where is the center of town to you? And we can list some routes, give them options to choose from.
Yeah.
We can leave another, so if they don't agree with any of our assessment, then because
Really?
people talking, they want sidewalks, they want, a place to grab a cup of coffee with a friend at a little bench outside. You're not gonna do that on 111 because you can't hear each other talk, right?
No, it'd have to be down
People
here by the
looking for-
flagpole.
A quaint
like
kind
the
of,
library.
but what is allowed there? Is someone gonna open a coffee shop there or a little
residential
Airbnb
area.
down there? Can they do that down there? These are all things I don't know. Can someone open what is it? Bread and breakfast. Could someone open a bed and breakfast down there? Is that allowed under the ordinances? Because there's so many lots that are completely non-conforming
Well,
in that sense down there, that it's kind of a little mishmash.
Yeah, and then the other thing is that the ordinance review committee voted to do away with contract zoning.
Yep.
Which you can make the case both ways on
Right.
that, but I'm saying that was an option. That if that passes, that will go away.
Right.
Unless the ordinances are then beefed up, modified.
If someone is rented residential, but they're like, for instance, there was a place in Portland that, it was in a residential neighborhood, but it was zoned commercial.
Oh,
So they had a business in it, because they could.
maybe that was the way their ordinances were. I mean, our ordinance is I think it's pretty darn restrictive with only 3 zones.
Right, I do too. And I think that Portland allows for different combinations of their, and of course, I think it was still limited what they could have for a business in that
Maybe
residential.
a size, number of square feet or something.
Yes,
So would that be considered an overlay,
What's that?
doing something like that?
It could be. The only overlays we have now, as I remember, are the mobile home overlays. We have 2 of those.
we do,
One that way and one that way.
okay.
And
I'm just wondering if that's
you could do it.
like an easier
You could put
route,
it, I mean, for
because you're
example,
not restricting anybody.
you could put an overlay on, say if you wanted to put an overlay on this center part of town here,
Correct.
and allow X,
Would-
Y, Z.
So how would you frame a question like that? Would you be in favor of creating an overlay for the center of town? Would that be,
I'm not sure
which
what
would
understand what overlay means.
well, and for instance, like, so they would be able to do some of the things that would create a center of town?
Maybe wording is such as, would you be in favor of changing the ordinances to allow more business activities in the center of town? Or maybe more small business activities in the center of town, depending on what you call a small business.
Right.
Some people might think a business is large. Some people would say, no, it's just a bed and breakfast, just a coffee. Maybe you could say either a small business or maybe
How about
even a bed and breakfast. I might put that in there.
And I could do IE,
Coffee shop, maybe, or,
I mean, there's already a barber shop down there, so,
yeah.
so,
I don't know.
does that make sense, kind of saying it like that?
It does to me, but I don't know. You could bounce all this off of,
Yeah, Peg will be here and Kim.
just to,
This is I figured this meeting and next meeting, hopefully we can come up with
Something
a
else,
survey-ish. And then
Smaller survey,
smaller survey, more very specific like this.
okay.
Cause you had a lot of people asking for that, sidewalks, center of town.
Yeah.
Community, where do we gather, where do we do things, we don't even have a place to gather. So, people, which is really great to me that people are thinking community, and people are thinking of wanting to gather.
Well,
I like that, I love that.
Is there, I haven't been following the town hall expansion for them, is that going forward?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, it's not going forward,
It's-
but it's,
it's still moving
Or
forward.
moving, but I mean, would that, if, let's say if that goes forward and gets funded or whatever, blah, 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 and actually gets done, would there then be a space for meetings?
Yes.
yes.
So
Large.
that's not, I mean, that's really not too, that's not far from the library.
Correct.
You walk right through the woods.
Right, so it could be a sidewalk
Plus,
connecting the dots.
The way it is, and I'm going to do it on the next meeting.
Make sure you guys can be heard with your mics too,
I'm sorry.
your microphones, in case people are
Oh,
listening. Don't forget.
Is to show where, what we've done so far.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
That, now where would that, which group is that with the,
The expansion.
the committee for that?
Yeah.
Is there funding for that? There's funding for
There
planning,
was
right?
funding for the engineer
Oh,
and the architect.
so then the town has to pay for the rest, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
unless we get a grant, which, well, we may,
Yeah.
We might, depending,
Someone's gonna tune in.
I guess who gets in office, really.
Yeah,
That's a crapshoot, but
yeah,
well, we got a grant there, very fortunately for that fire station.
Yeah.
Way back.
you never know. I mean, like I said, it might be the perfect timing, right place, right time, things happen, but
well, we need a
Small
certain
towns.
amount of people,
yes,
right?
yes, 100%. So I like those for now. We'll put those, kind of a pin in it on those here. Like, this is just I'll distribute this to everybody to kind of ponder the words, ponder what we're thinking.
Was there, that other material we got, was there, I mean, there was a lot of material there, frankly.
Yep, so I'm scrolling down, it's right here.
Is there all
So
that stuff?
the engagement question, I don't think we need to ask about that. I think now we get the idea of some people are involved, some people just don't have time, and some people didn't realize there's so many volunteer opportunities.
And some people don't care.
And
Well,
that
which
too.
is, that's natural.
Yeah, true story. I
I don't actually, I mean, I can understand that because a lot of people just want to be not, not bothered. They want to pay their taxes, and come into town hall, very efficient, get your license plates or whatever, your registration, vote if you want to vote. I mean, and then don't bother me, I won't bother you, and I'll pay my taxes.
Okay, and here comes the next
Which is fair,
question.
I think.
If I can get it up here.
And also time, it depends how much, what your
Yeah.
state of life is.
I
at
question
the
my
time.
sanity most times when I volunteer. So this is what amenities, programs, or infrastructure would encourage you to be more engaged with your community? And again, it's the whole informally connect with people, it's having that, senior programs is a big one, townwide events. I think there's more, like Alfred has that really cool color walk run that they do. I think if we had a center of town, we could do something like that.
Well,
you know?
also, if there, I mean, I don't think, you can, I mean, there is a room in the library that, a couple of rooms now, they modified the library, some small rooms,
Right.
but there's a larger room that's now has a lot of books in there. It's pretty
Their books
generous in
there.
letting
Yeah, they
people
do
use
kids
that.
crafts in there and things like that. So that was part of the reason putting in the question I wanted to put in. And this is where, see, people are 2-mile walking path and all that stuff. Just if for anyone that is watching or listening, one really cool thing we learned is that I haven't heard if it's a total yes.
Yeah.
The Boy Scouts got the go-ahead for the trail for his thing, and they're supposed to be starting it this June
Oh, really? Now,
Yeah.
what's that gonna consist
over
of?
at Bunganut.
Oh, okay.
Trails for trail walking over at
Uh-huh.
Bunganut.
Good,
So there would be something there for that, so that hopefully is coming soon.
and there's
of course-
parking there too. but
Yes,
There is
yep,
parking,
and the committee's looking at better parking as
Yeah.
the park expands.
that's a nice,
Um,
that's a nice.
There's one for running, snowmobiling. My understanding is snowmobiling and now ATV are now kind of joined and working on trails together.
That makes sense
one of
because
the
you can't
meetings.
depend on the snow anymore.
Correct.
Really?
That was one of the meetings I went to, which is fantastic, and I guess they're working really well together and doing what they do.
It was nice.
Yeah, it's same thing, more infrastructure, connected people, sidewalks, sidewalks was a big one. I looked into sidewalks, and you can get grants for them, but my understanding is, and maybe I'm wrong,
Yeah.
that the town is responsible for them after they're installed. Am I wrong on
I
that?
don't know, depends on how it's
Does anybody
structured, I
know?
guess.
Say that again?
So I was
maintenance.
looking into sidewalks and having sidewalks like input, like for instance, people really want one on Kennebunk Pond Road, because you have the trailer park there and for kids safely to get to school,
Makes sense.
as well as get to the beach. It'd be lovely if there was a sidewalk that ran that whole side, because you do take your life in your own hands
Mhm.
walking on that road. But that's a state road,
Kennebunk Pond?
yes, because the school's.
Oh, it is, yeah.
So, but
Huh.
my understanding is that once a sidewalk is put in,
The
the
town has to
town is
maintain it?
responsible for the maintenance and repairs from,
I don't know.
thank you, Jesus Ford. So I don't know if that's true or not. I only just started researching it. So that would be something for, the committee to look at as we're looking at plans and potentials. We would need to know, because that would be a really big cost to the town for maintaining and plowing sidewalks.
Oh,
And
yeah, then you have to do something special for that.
You'd have to have one of those little cha-chas, you know what I'm
Cha-chas,
talking about.
yes.
The cha-chas on tracks.
Definitely need a cha-cha
Need
on
a
tracks.
cha-cha.
Well, if there's any sidewalks, they'd have to be in a really limited area, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's not many practical.
But Kennebunk Pond does make sense,
Yeah,
at least
that's
from the school
more
to
than
the
anything
pond, not
else.
up the hill, that's
more than anything
craziness.
else.
But from there all the way to the pond makes absolute sense, just because of the amount of kids
And
and people that
is
go
there,
there.
I don't know, I'm not too familiar with that road. Is there room there for it? I mean, how would the other be?
There's some
Yeah.
pretty big drop-off ditches, but they're really wide,
Yeah,
so it could be done.
Yeah.
And there will still be a room for ditch,
Matt, who's gonna pay for it?
that's just it. Where it's a state road, that's where I think that's a state contact, we'd have to find out
Whether they would,
how that works at the state level, how you request a sidewalk. Is it a matter of enough people sign a petition? Is it cost sharing for the
Well,
install?
It's gonna be cautioning all. day
Maybe,
long.
Yeah, that's my guess.
possibly Lindsay could find out about it.
But
I
there
don't know
are
if she is.
community grants for sidewalks.
Well,
and I was able to
there's
find
a
that
push, there's a push for, green energy and all that, which, you make a point on that one way or the other, but to do that, it's an upfront cost, an infrastructure
Correct.
cost.
Correct.
So,
But that would allow a lot more communal
I think it's a good
visiting
idea,
in that area.
but I can't think of any other area. Where else would there be a side? I mean, down.
Down here, like maybe St. John, like John Street and around to the town hall would not be a bad, or a cut through sidewalk.
Yeah, well,
Um,
this is just a path here. from the
Yeah.
library.
Or from the library to the center of town, if that does become the center of town.
Yeah.
I don't know what,
Is there would there be any use in trying to promote an expansion of the library to some extent? I mean, that's
Yeah.
a decent building. I don't know anything, I think I know maybe talked to one of the trustees once, but they seem to be doing pretty well, is my point.
Yeah.
The librarian seems to be doing a great job.
Right.
Very, very effective.
Right.
And that's a nice building. They've got some small meeting rooms in the back of it
Yeah.
now. Instead of trying to build a whole new facility, depending on what happens here with the town hall, is there any way to add on to that? I mean,
we'll add on to that to give them, like right now,
with
they're
town money.
their book sale room and games and videos and audiobooks compete with the community room to use it.
Yeah,
So usually it's very hard for the room to be used for crafts because it's pretty full of books.
that's right.
And they're trying to sell it. It used to be they'd stack them all in boxes and put them aside, but now their book sale goes on all year long. The room's open.
Makes sense. To
It
get
does.
rid of
They
the-
need to do
They
that.
gotta get rid of the books.
They get a lot of donations. So they need that space. So yeah, that big room to do crafts or for Parks and Rec to do stuff in there is kind of dwindling. Because now they have bookcases in there
Well, I'm
and
just wondering where else there is to land, if you wanted to, one time,
It would be
we were
there.
talking Cousin School turned into a town hall and all that, and that went away.
Exactly.
Where do you have land that you could, and here, there isn't a lot of land here,
It's 11 acres.
is there?
Yeah.
Wow,
how does
maybe,
that fit? How does that work? It's all kind of
That's kind of,
little woggled.
you know.
well,
Over
if-
hill and over dale.
I believe this
I heard there was 11 here, but I
Well,
don't
maybe
know.
the addition will accommodate that, I don't know, depending
Addition's going this
on what's going on.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen with parking? I guess parking's gonna move.
Yeah, it's all,
Well, that makes sense, I mean, this is flat. Easier to add on here than the
Yeah.
brook, you got a brook.
And of course, that depends what they do with the baseball field over here, what's gonna happen with that? Because what they're paying right now, they can't do that again.
Who, are they paying for are they renting that from the owners of Cousins?
Huge. So and this is probably, I think this might be the last year they're using it. I know they were talking about fixing this one up, but then that impacts where to put the park.
Well, that's a point.
Because are they supposed to eat up the library parking? Which is what happens. Or they park down John Street, and that's a hazard.
I didn't know that. I thought that was
Yeah.
going well with the.
No.
with the ball field.
That's not.
Unfortunate.
So,
All right, well, we can't solve, I mean, the only thing you can do is come up with a framework, and then these things you don't know the answers to, right? You don't know
Right.
how much money the town can get to expand, hopefully get enough to do the project from some source. or reason.
basically, we only did 10 questions, and then we had open responses. So,
Yeah,
whether they're amenities, programs, or infrastructure, would you encourage to be more engaged with the community?
you get a lot of all over the board there.
We are, and then you got all the responses, which all mixed into a lot of, they want trails, they want walking, they want,
well, a lot of the, some of the trail situation is when we do timber harvesting.
Yep.
Hopefully, we're gonna be able to include, time and money to
Create a trail.
Create the trails.
That makes- that makes
They have skidder trails at that point with stumps. Well, you gotta
Take the
grind them in
stumps out.
there, not take them out, but
Oh.
they grind them right
they grind them
down.
right down and then chip.
And, leaves a beautiful bed and
Basically, everything I think they drop, they can chip there too, like some of the.
Pretty good.
And then,
slash
but,
and
then the
everything,
town is
chip
gonna
right
have to develop a maintenance program, because I think that's what happened with the last stuff there, like
Well,
the Boy
anything that
Scouts that
builds-
got thrown out.
You gotta build in some kind of maintenance,
Right.
long-term maintenance.
So there should be a committee, there should be a trail committee at some point.
Or something.
So we have 3 questions. Is there anything we want to ask about trails? Because people want trails, but are they willing to have their tax dollars go to that?
Well,
There's only so many grants.
Well, I think, like I said, I think before because we're kind of working on that
Uh-huh.
with the land that we have. And we create these trails, okay, on town-owned land. So we need to work with the forester and the surveyor that I've been working with to identify how can we get from this piece to that
Right,
piece.
yeah.
You know what I mean, to
Yeah.
continue the trail.
Right.
And it may be something easy, maybe somebody wouldn't mind putting a little right away or,
Yeah.
Almost like what they do with
Donating an
the
easement or,
snowmobile
something.
trail. Or, they give permission,
Right.
Yep.
And, that will create a network
A nice network of
of
trails.
trails.
That would hopefully you would hook up with the Waterbury Experimental Forest too, because they're helping. us get
I
this.
mean,
Okay.
depends where all, we quite a bit of land.
Yeah, I mean, Bowman, that's 160. That's a lot over there. So what else do we think is a good question?
Okay, do we wanna talk any more about zoning? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's a very important question, though.
The question is, what questions do you ask?
So,
Well, if, talking about this area here,
right,
if you have a village zone and you allow more things to go on there, because, they're basically non-conforming lots now, right?
Yeah, mostly. we'll
So,
say they are.
so, we look at that and see, what's the smallest lot that's there, sort of work around things. And then come up with what, like you said, and maybe it's not a bed and breakfast, but maybe it's a small coffee
Allowed
shop, maybe
uses.
it's,
there's
Or-
a ton of non-conforming lots in Kennebunk Pond Road.
Okay, the whole shoreline is a big non.
But even on the other side,
Yeah,
there's tons of non-conforming lots, tons.
Yeah,
So is that
But
another area?
But
you
again,
allow-
I wonder if that becomes some sort of overlay.
well,
I
shoreline.
know you identify it, you don't take anybody's rights away,
Correct,
you basically give them more,
correct.
you know?
And shoreline, there's a separate shoreline zoning ordinance.
Right.
So it is somewhat different, and,
But it's on the other side of the road.
I'm sorry.
It's on the other side of the road, I'm not talking
Yeah,
about the
it
shore.
depends on how far you are from the pond.
So, yeah, but like further down, like there's a house that just sold for, it was on 1.5 acres. It's across from the trailer park.
Yeah.
So there's lots of lots
Yeah.
all along there. And the ones that are seated in after the pond to the left, when you get in there, none of those are conforming lots. I mean, you can pass the Great Pond for some of them. So you have that, and then you have the ones that are kind of staggered like this, and that's
They're
not
all
conforming.
different.
All the way down on the opposite side of the water. It's basically from after the water up the hill, you get back into conforming lots.
But we can't touch those.
Right,
We don't
no,
want to touch
no,
them.
you don't want to touch them.
Well, no, but I mean, you don't, because.
They're fine.
You can't
They're good.
change. You can't change.
But
that.
do we consider, so is that a question, would you be in favor of more
Well,
zones
more zones?
in the town of Lyman?
Well, the question, I mean, that's a good question,
Is
but
that
to be able to answer that question, you sort of almost have to have somebody propose, okay. we have
Such as that right
Three
there.
zones, yeah, we have 3 zones now, do we wanna, would you be, you could say, if you wanna be general, would you be in favor of increasing the number of zones in the town to allow for more diverse uses or some other BS like that, which is not a good question because it's not very specific.
Increasing the number.
And see, that's the thing, I mean, we'd be in favor of more, better zoning, right? But then we gotta look at what that means.
Right.
Somebody might say, I want 10 zones and I want this, and somebody might say, I want 5 zones, and it's more, so it depends on what your model is.
Right.
And that's a problem.
I'm just gonna put that in there as a marker, I'm not, like, this is just to kind of get us thinking.
I think the ordinance review committees is, and I go to these meetings, but I only keep, my mind gets confused. They're, trying to get some help, but, Lee J. Feldman left his position in Southern
Oh, he did?
Planning. Yeah, I don't know where he went, but, so that's probably a loss. We are getting some help though, I believe, from
Yes, from Michaela.
Michaela there, so.
Yeah.
But there's gotta be some way to look at our zoning and say, okay, here's an overall view, and here's some, not detail, but here's some suggestions, or recommendations to make it more flexible, more useful, or usable, without taking away too many rights of people who are living in it. Because once you move into that house,
Yeah.
you don't want things to change.
You can't take anything away.
No.
Only-
Right, they're,
But
like,
you can add
it's
some
their
flexibility.
grandfather, basically.
We call
But
it
those,
pre-existing.
again, those flexibilities would be best served if you have 5 acres, because you have more flexibility with more land.
That is true.
But if you decide, some, with that, maybe an overlay, I'm not sure what you'd call
There's
it.
some,
But if you do that, I'd rather go with 2.5 acres than you can't do this. You know what I mean?
yeah, there's trade-offs,
There's trade-offs there.
because you gotta have room for septic and things like that,
Right.
and now you can put in ADUs.
Well, I'm thinking more that if you split a lot and you allow now businesses to go there,
Mhm.
well, you're that much closer to your
Well, sure,
neighbor.
you're gonna
you know?
disturb them.
Yeah, so that would take away from them.
Right.
And that's always the issue.
It's not easy.
No, I think, nobody cares, my opinion, which is always, nobody cares what I think, but anyway, nobody cares about zoning until they find out something's gonna happen next door. Then they get
So-
excited.
Taking off of this one here, what zoning district do you live in?
Did we get answers on that?
We did.
Okay.
So,
I'm still not sure.
you had,
Well,
some not
most of
sure.
the map is general purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
But, so,
It's amazing what percentage, it's a pretty good percentage of shoreline, actually. It was 20%.
Yeah.
Because we have so many ponds.
We do.
So, and that's a totally different ballgame in a sense.
So does this make us think of any questions that we want to ask to narrow this down?
Well,
Or is this the same apple we've been biting at?
I mean, this is just the status quo, right?
Yep.
So do we, I don't know if we want to ask, do you have, if there's a way to ask for
Are you satisfied
recommended
with this?
changes for your zone or,
So would you want changes to your zone? Is that
have
what-
you noticed, well, you could say, have you had any issues with the allowed uses in your zone or something
That's a
like
good
that? I'm
question.
not sure if people even know that.
So, let me just get, oops, let me do that.
I'm trying to
So,
think, we haven't had that many, well, I mean, there's been a few complaint issues, but I mean, mostly, I mean, think about things come before the planning board.
oops,
I mean, most of them are supportive, I guess I can't say that true, but some of them are objective too.
let me see if I can grab this.
The other thing, I don't have a good feeling for, maybe Peggy does, being more in the real estate side of things. Whether there's people that are frustrated that they can't do more from a business perspective with their current lot. That, the current lot they own in Lyman.
No, I didn't do it,
Or,
shoot.
whether they think our zoning is too restrictive. I mean, we don't see, planning board only sees people coming in wanting to spend their money
Correct,
to do something on their
correct.
lot.
So,
That's a different perspective than somebody saying, oh, I would like to do this, but the zoning won't allow me. You wouldn't even hear, the planning board probably would never hear about that. Unless
right.
somebody tried to make a change to the zone, which is pretty rare, frankly,
Let me see if I can.
from a
So-
resident.
Let me see if I can, I'm gonna have to grab.
Well, it's then something like if you had the ability to change something in a zone, what would it be?
That's a good question.
Oh, that's a very good one.
Let people
If you have-
say what bugs them.
In your zone.
Did you know when you bought what zone you were in? I think
I
I
was
knew,
too young.
I think I think we knew we were in residential, but that didn't mean anything at the time.
It didn't mean anything to me. I didn't know and I didn't understand the difference. To be
Yeah.
honest, I was young.
But
You know
the
what I
real
mean?
estate agent is probably more interested in, I mean, they want to make the sale.
Well,
So,
for me, it was family split off, but I still at that age didn't understand
Didn't
the difference
understand.
between general and residential. And that could be a question we ask. Do you understand the difference between the different
That's
zones
a
we
good
have in
question.
town? Do you know what I mean? Do you have a good?
And that's, I mean, you can say, well, go read the ordinance, but I mean, the ordinance isn't horrible, but it's not as user friendly as it could be.
Yeah, I think, you have a lot of people that have lived here so long and maybe, their kids have gotten a piece of the land or inherited. That maybe those people aren't so fully aware of our ordinances because you just live here like they've been involved in town politics.
Right.
Or people who move here who are only interested in residential don't understand what is allowed in general. Because they're not looking at it, right?
That's right. You don't look at it until it bothers you.
Right.
Then you go, well,
And then you go, what do you mean it's allowed over there? Instead of understanding what's allowed over there. So I think that's a fair question to ask. That's a simple yes or no. And again, I really think this should be another just 10-question survey.
yeah, I wouldn't go for any more than that. I think if you get too many, people aren't gonna,
Where we're not in danger of LD 1976,
Yeah, it's huge.
that was a big dodge. Even though apparently it's gonna be more work for us.
is that gonna come up again or not?
It could, but it could get watered down like 2003 did. You know how 2003 set everyone on fire and then everyone was up in arms?
Yeah.
And 2 years, everyone went
Well,
crazy.
the legislature, they're gonna talk a lot anyway, no matter what, but then they get all excited and then,
I think they realized the financial impact it was gonna have on the towns having to comply with that.
well, there's no help. They
There was
aren't giving
nothing.
us any help,
No, there was nothing.
unfunded mandate.
So I think that at least hopefully if it does rise again, I would hope there's a map for towns that need to follow it, and there's some funding.
Some guidance and some help,
Yes, some guidance that's free.
some planning guidance.
Yes, yeah, choose one, A, B, or C. Here you go, make it fit.
Well, and I know, like, I think it was, they was saying, you're trying to think long-term, and I don't have that horizon, but, and that's hard to do, because we don't typically have any long-term planning here. We change select board members every few years, et cetera. Now with the town manager, maybe it'll be a little
More
longer term.
stability.
But that's what the comp plan,
It's supposed to
is
do,
supposed to do.
and it's hard, but I'm just saying, just getting that vision is hard to do when you don't know exactly what the hell's gonna
And I
happen.
think that, yeah, but I think that still, there's footsteps you can put in place, and then depending if you've got a dodge left or dodge right, there'll be some
Yeah,
bend to what you put in place.
And that's I think, the beauty of doing the land study,
mhm.
Yeah.
designating, this for whatever, future
Public
schools,
works.
for the public
Well,
works.
yeah, I mean,
And you designate everything, so 10 years from now, when we're no more, those labels are still on them. They get voted in.
Are they,
You know?
is there, I don't have a feeling whether a good example would be, some of these, larger towns or cities that are looking to expand their schools.
Yes,
And some of them have land that's been put aside for that.
Right.
But some of them don't. It doesn't appear that they have, maybe they
Right.
do. But
We're
do we have-
Which is,
we're desperate.
well, we have the land.
Yeah.
That's what we're in the process of doing now, is we're,
Is there room for expansion of the elementary school, for example? I don't know.
I don't know.
I-
I don't, it's in the district, Lyman Elementary and the high school are the oldest built schools.
Yeah, something's gonna have to
And
happen.
they're so antiquated as far as like your handicap accessibility, like there's only so much you can do. It's so, and they're already at max for kids, basically, they maybe have room for 30 more, but you gotta make sure they're all in the same grade because you only have, I think, one classroom left. But the last comprehensive plan back in 1999 already said LES was antiquated and needed upgrading and updating. And I don't think it's had that much done, except for maybe their HVAC, and of course, there's been arsenic in the water, which has been an ongoing issue over there. The playground is super outdated, it's really sad. Compared to, and my son goes there, so I'm not
Right,
criticizing
yeah.
the school, but compared to a lot of other schools in the district where,
If you know, if, I don't want to get over too much, but there's a question, do you know if, say the school needs to be replaced or significantly upgraded, who pays for that? Just Lyman? Or the
no,
whole
I
school
think it
district?
goes across the whole, RSU 57 budget.
Yeah,
Like if the high school has to,
Oh, the
everyone's
high
like a
school's
piece of the
different.
pie.
but I mean the elementaries.
But I think it all funnels into there, because they're all like, the counselors come from over there and they share services. You know what I mean? So I
Or does
think,
do you know if the school has a long-term plan for upgrading facilities? Which would
that
include the
I
high
don't
school?
know, but that's a really good question to ask. I think Peg had been in touch with the principal, or the superintendent to find out what upgrades happened maybe since the last time they
Yeah.
were told they were outdated, to see what has been done and what their plans are for LES. I don't know. So let me just put this in here.
Yeah, because that's, I mean, that would be that would be a major tax burden.
Yeah.
If the town had to pay for most of the upgrades or replacements.
I don't know
of
how that
schools,
works, but that's a question.
Then that would blow everything else away, because you gotta have schools.
We'll ask the
No
question.
question about
But they still would do modulars and those aren't cheap. And then you gotta get heating and cooling in there and
Big
potentially a bathroom and,
That's what I think that's what the snowmobile club was.
Yeah.
It was a classroom.
it. Oh, was it?
I believe it was.
I mean, I wanted to put a modular in 6th grade at Waterboro
Oh,
that they
gosh.
built into the building later on. And that was how long ago? We won't talk about that.
Yeah,
80 or so.
that's bad news.
And I was modulars back then. They had the sixth grade classes both put modulars on the end, on the other side of the gym, which is now part of the permanent building. They were able to expand.
Well, that's always the problem. If your town's expanding, you want to keep ahead of it, but then if you overexpand the school and then all of a sudden your base drops, you got to
Right.
get extra space.
And that was one thing I found interesting in the studies I looked at, is the lack of population growth we had in 10 years. It was a little scary. So you have the same population of people carrying the tax burden that's just gonna keep,
And the people are getting older.
yeah, and are gonna
You
get
know.
taxed right out of their houses. Yeah. And there's already a housing crisis, so it's really hard.
Everything I've seen is
Why
not, that's, I don't, so far, everything that the state has done isn't gonna help.
Nope.
I don't see any help
I
for the
don't- I
housing
agree.
crisis.
I agree.
I mean, there is a crisis, but it's not making it any cheaper, is it?
No, so that could lead to another question,
Okay.
and this is always a hot topic. Are you in favor of tiny homes?
Yeah, you can ask it. Well, that ordinance of you that was working on changing the wording on auxiliary dwelling units, and doing some modifications there,
Uh-huh.
which would be an ability to add.
I mean, that would be a tiny home, 800 square feet.
Yeah, there's a tiny home,
That's for
but
sure.
there's
Could
even
be- could be
tinier ones than
larger.
that, have you seen them?
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I think it says minimum 800, I think.
Yeah, I know Stanford has tiny home ordinances, I think, and so does, is it Arundel or Kennebunk? One of them does, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Well, even,
That would be a decent little thing, because if, just say it blew up and they're like, yeah, that's a good idea. Well, maybe that, we identify
an area that could
an
be a tiny
area,
home.
that we own
Mhm.
for the future, you know?
well, people would maybe want to put in, well, they could put in ADUs for their parents or grandparents or
Right.
family members, things like that. That'd be a possibility, I suppose.
Well, like a tiny home village.
Tiny home village, yeah.
Would be, people have to be a
Tom
certain.
Thumb lives there.
A
so-
certain height.
You can only be 5'2".
I just said
There's
Tom Thumb,
definitely a
Tom
height,
Thumb and Thumbelina live there, so just so you know.
a height restriction.
You can't,
Absolutely.
I don't think you can
My
say,
husband's 6
you
feet, he's
can't say
out.
tiny, I don't think you can say tiny people
No,
anymore.
little person,
Little
little person
person.
homes, little person.
Be like a
homes.
hobbit,
Yeah.
hobbit house.
Oh, a Hobbit village,
Yeah,
there you go,
Hobbit
Dave,
village.
spell it.
I think
Dave,
that's
spell it.
another zone.
Yeah, that'd probably be popular.
But, in this day and age, like, I look at, like, my nephews are in their 20s, and they go, how do I ever? With the building prices, land,
Yeah.
how would they ever, in a town like this, live? They wouldn't, they couldn't.
It's almost in any town right now.
Right now, yeah.
I don't think it's.
Except for
a
Lake-
line-
except for Lake
it's
Arrowhead.
just a alignment issue.
Except for Lake Arrowhead, where they're crammed in like sardines.
Well, you do have mobile home overlay district, but even there, they don't own the land.
No,
They-
exactly.
they're
So there's,
renting the land.
that's just it. So they never
Well,
have,
isn't most of, I'm sorry,
yeah, they don't have anything that's theirs.
Well, they have the building.
isn't most of the mobile home district where all the gravel pits are
Hmm.
on Mass Road? Isn't that all?
No,
No.
no, there's one down here,
I mean, that can expand.
oh, that can
Oh, that
expand.
can
I don't
expand.
understand, like,
Maybe.
I don't know.
there's no building down there, but I thought that was all mobile home down
I don't
No,
know.
I think there's only, I
the
would
second
I
part of
don't-
Mass Road.
I don't know.
I
That's a
think-
really good
I
question.
think it is.
Yeah.
Because can Kennebunk Pond, can that expand? Can Oakwood?
I don't know.
These are all very good questions.
Yeah.
I don't know
Just
that. I
shows-
don't know the answer.
Just shows these two. It just
The
shows,
one back on.
yeah, it just shows the one down here, right
Yeah.
down by Kennebunk, which is, and then there's one up
Right
here.
there, that's what I'm talking about.
I don't know, I've never been up, well, I must have been up there sometime, but I haven't.
So there's which ones?
Just these two.
Just those two, that's it?
Well, the one down here, I go by there quite a bit when I'm coming back from making an ice cream run to Shane's Mini.
I won't tell.
And they seem very well kept.
They do?
Yeah, that's Mass Road.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
up
so-
here, up here.
Yeah, so
So is-
I think,
Well, there's a lot of travel.
I
pits up there.
think there's a few gravel pits.
Is that Kennebunk Pond then?
No.
Where's
I
that?
don't- I
So
don't
where's
know
Kennebunk Pond?
Kennebunk Pond is.
So where's their
is-
trailer park? It's right,
I don't.
it should be, isn't that a
It's
zone?
not, it's not an overlay district.
How come?
Maybe it was pre-existing, I don't know. I don't think that's ever come up with the planning board as an issue. Here we've had an issue where one guy wanted to, it was almost a very bad case because he did all his homework. He wanted to do something, add a deck, but it would have
gotten too close to the lot line, so the planning board had to say no. And we said, well, the only thing you can do is go to the Board of Appeals. I don't know if he did or not, but it was a shame because other people had done the same thing, they just didn't ask the question.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, I'd be curious why there's no,
there is,
Yeah, I don't see it.
yeah, I don't know, I've never heard that, you know, it's never been an issue that I know of. Are those, I don't know, I don't know anything about
I mean, I know the roads all loop into each other, you know, and around, and they don't go out to Poor Farm Road or anything like
Yeah.
that. But is there more land for expansion
I don't know.
out back of there? I'd be curious. So is that another question we ask? Are you in favor of allowing more
Mobile home parks.
mobile home parks?
That's a good question. I mean, if you're looking for affordable housing, isn't there a code issue too with,
Yeah,
who was bringing that up? Was that
Yeah.
Peggy?
yeah, with the mobile homes that are being built coming in that aren't to spec now with the installation.
But have we, I'm not up on codes, so I mean, in the sense of, has the town adopted a new code, or has the state adopted a new building code
I think
that-
the
that-
state has more requirements
that
than.
changed the requirements? Do you know if that's true or not?
Well, the building code changes all the time.
Yeah, but don't you have to adopt it?
Well, the state, at the state level, yes,
Yeah,
we follow.
but do they typically just do that automatically?
There's a process, but we're not a part of it.
Yeah, we don't have a say.
You know.
Well, has it made it harder to build houses, is what I'm asking.
Yes.
Well,
It's
you know,
become more
like the,
expensive.
the energy code
Yeah,
is a little heavy-handed. I think we don't go by it yet, but I think it's coming.
you mean the state of Maine?
No, the line.
But does Lyman, did the select board? have-
Well, I think after so many residents, you have to adopt the
Yeah.
energy code.
Oh,
Something to
you
that
get a
effect.
certain population level.
Yes.
I got you.
So that's heavy-handed, and it makes it so that your house is so tight,
You gotta have air.
you have to have air exchange. So it's a burden,
It's more money.
it's, you know, that you're trying to save money and you,
Again, this is why I'm asking, are you in favor of more mobile home parks, more a tiny home?
I think it's a good question to
It's
ask.
questions to ask because,
And most people say yes, as long as it's not near me.
right,
right,
Right.
but, you know, you look at these massive, then are we playing God to who can live here? Because you look at Kennebunk, and I pulled into a road one day, and they're all new, it's a little cul-de-sac, so I was coming into Kennebunk downtown, Kennebunkport downtown.
Yeah,
And mind you, my husband's also working on a lot of these homes, so I do go visit him and he's working, you know. I went in there and it's just, let me think. 6 homes, basically no backyard.
yeah.
My husband worked on some of these though, and I know what they're costing. And they're gorgeous, big, beautiful homes, but you better be looking at 2 million.
You
if
better
you're
like your
living in
neighbors,
there.
huh?
You better like your neighbors too. Is that what we want, big ginormous homes, or
I
do you
can't.
still want a little room with a little house on there for people to be able to have a little breathing room with some bushes?
I can't imagine
Um,
that coming this far inland.
Well,
I mean, the ocean is a big attraction there, and the,
but we're
Roberts
close though,
Point and all that stuff.
you know, you look at Arundel,
Yeah,
they're pretty fancy with some of the stuff they have over there, they have a lot of very nice homes in Arundel. We have some very nice homes here in Lyman too, very nice homes, you know, but again,
I give tours if you want.
I would love to tour down.
I get another one.
But who's being able to afford to live here? You know, are we making it so that the middle class can't live here? And the ones that are here are struggling and poor?
Well,
town
and we're
are we
not
building?
getting any building. We had 2 subdivisions.
Right.
10 houses each roughly.
Yep.
In the last year.
But a lot of those, when they do them, are like your cookie cutter.
I imagine they're gonna be expensive when they get built.
well, because it's expensive to build that
to build a
road.
house. Yep, and the road, yeah. the road's about-
And that has to be sprinkled, and does that not, a subdivision, does that have to go by the new?
Sprinkler code, yeah.
Well, sprinkler and does that have to go, installation code?
I think
I
so.
don't know. I don't
I
know.
think it does.
That would be up to, I guess, whatever the code is.
Apparently, the modulars can't get insurance if they're not up to
Oh, yeah.
code with the insurance, with the installation.
Well, the issue, we just have an issue now with talking about the requirements for paving of subdivisions, and, let's say, if you read the ordinance word for word, it does not appear if you don't go over 10 that you have to pave. I thought you did. But I wish people would pave, but it doesn't seem like that's a requirement.
As long as they have a maintenance agreement.
Yeah.
It's not an issue.
I'm just happy that I live in a subdivision that does have paved roads, because the town will never touch the road
I mean, they can decide as an HOA,
if they want to pave.
you know, 5 years from now, when they have
They wanna
money in the
pay.
bank, saying, let's just pave it.
Like that's what we're
Get it done.
Yeah.
40 years they got.
40 years.
Okay,
But
so,
we pay for it.
Yeah.
well, the town, I don't know if the town's accepting roads now or not, frankly.
No.
So, do we ask hot questions
No
like?
matter how you build it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you feel
That's not quite fair.
Lyman
in a sense.
I would have thought
Yes.
that if you have a subdivision and you have them build it all up to standard,
Yeah.
to town standards, you know, you're collecting taxes.
Yeah, the rules don't say that the town has to. In fact, the rules say that town, it has to go to the select board for acceptance. It doesn't, the rules don't, even if you build the town standard, which I think is, that's the way to do it.
I read the design criteria that I don't think any road's gonna be taken back.
Yeah.
But maybe there's some, what do you call them? Some
Weasel words.
weasel words in there that
I tell
maybe
you,
they can get it.
I don't know.
approved, you know?
Sometimes I wish there were weasel words, sometimes I wish there were not.
Yeah.
I mean, easier, if there's not anything in there, then you don't have to think about it. But if there's weasel words, it's saying, or blah, 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 then you gotta say, wait a minute now, does this meet that criteria or not? And
So, do you feel your taxes are too low, reasonable, too high?
well,
We'll ask it.
I'll tell you, compared to other towns.
That's
we're
what I'm
doing-
saying. Do
we're
people
doing okay.
realize, like I said, do you feel alignment is affordable to live in? Do you feel your taxes are A, B, or C?
And then, do you wanna put anything in there about, in comparison to other towns, do you
Uh-huh.
feel?
Yeah.
Because if you look around, the only people that have lower taxes, I think tax rate is probably Kennebunkport, because they have all that oceanfront stuff
Yeah,
that sucks up
that-
the big bucks.
Well, yes, because Wazonker money. when
They pay a
get
lot of
taxed.
extra money, and then the people who don't live at the ocean benefit a little bit.
Right. So I think those are pretty good
So,
questions.
so I wonder if you put a block in there
Okay,
and put, you know, find out what the mill rate is in the surrounding towns.
That would be a good, that would be,
Put that on there with our mill rate.
would be a
Okay,
piece,
so-
good piece of information.
Yeah.
Because I don't
So-
think people know that.
Because automatically, they're gonna say too high.
Yeah.
But if they look at the mill rate all the way around us,
so I'm just gonna put this, and then we'll find one and pop it in there. And I think that new information was available in the data feed we got.
So what are we gonna, well, once we finish up, what are we gonna do with all this stuff?
The surveys,
Yeah. No, I mean, all this information, I guess, didn't you give us this stuff?
that's just stuff, food for thought that I printed out for you guys.
Oh, my God.
It's crazy. It's a lot of information
I'm
from
gonna
there.
start drinking more.
I might have to supply you, Don. That's just basically for your review, because it takes a lot of time to go in and follow the rabbit holes and find the data you're looking for. It's a nice little website, but it's very time consuming.
Yeah.
So I went and just started following leads for stuff I knew that we would kind of have to look at for our town. And that's how I came up with that information. I thought the statistics were important.
Something interesting.
Again, like how we've grown or not grown in this case, which was like shocking to me. There's a chart in there that shows how far people live away from where they work,
Mhm.
or how many people work in this town, vice versa. So there was just interesting stats like that I thought would be just kind of nice to know what actually makes up our town right now.
Well,
And that's
I
just
would
a
say
simple-
Lyman would be a fairly convenient town for working in other
did you?
I
larger.
work in
did you
downtown
print one for me
Portland.
too?
I have it at my other bag. I do have it for you, Dave. So I work downtown Portland, right
Yeah.
downtown. And
How long does it take
I
you?
have to be there at 8. I can leave here at 7:15, 7:20 and make it parked and get in my building. Sometimes I get caught in traffic. Snowstorms leave a bit earlier.
That's pretty good.
But that's not bad considering I'm taking the highway, zipping up, zipping back. You know, and then they're going past grocery stores on the way if I need to, family.
Sure.
They're at Costco, cheaper gas. So I have that, but then you have people who might be heading to Shapley to work. Good Lord,
No.
God bless you. Number one on the roads. Number two, higher gas. You know, yeah, you got a Hannaford and Waterboro, that's great. But like, we don't even have a drugstore here.
Well, we really don't have much.
We don't have a post office. People did ask for a post office, but I don't think that'll ever happen.
I know that's going the other way, if anything.
I know.
mean, Post office they're trying to
Yeah.
be more efficient. I mean, it's cost, right?
Right. So,
Okay, so is the goal here now to send out another survey?
yes, I think we have some good stuff to go over with Peg. And again, I'm gonna send this to her, because I think I put in here about LES,
She might have some comments.
Peg.
And then do you want, you do show this to the town manager, don't you?
I CC her on our emails.
Okay, I mean, I would think that she might have some questions or something, and might have some insight as to asking
Yeah.
some other kind of question,
Yeah.
because, this committee isn't gonna, we're not gonna take any action in
No.
a sense. It's
These
gonna
are
be the
just
town
questions.
manager, select board, or,
This is just
Budget
collecting
committee.
information.
Yeah.
Because I think the biggest thing that is part of our, what we talked about at the beginning, kind of our mission for this committee is we want to know what everyone in the town thinks the best we can.
Yeah.
Opinions, thoughts, information from everyone. I think if anyone missed a survey and they want to take it down the road, we can print one out and they can fill it out. We'd love to see their information.
well, there's two
This will be number
opportunities
2.
coming up. One in June, depending on how many people
If
vote,
someone sat out back here at a
Yeah,
table
or-
and handed out flyers.
that would be a thought.
Hand out the,
Thought.
here's a QR code to scan to take it on your phone, or here's a paper copy.
That's
Drop
a-
it in the slot,
That's a thought, then there's the November one, which will
Right.
pull in a lot of people.
right? And we could
But I'm
have
not sure what
those,
the rules are with respect to,
as long as
as long as
you're
it's
on the
out
back, as long as it's the back end
yeah,
of the
you
building,
don't
you can
wanna
do
get
it.
accused. Because
No, as long as you're on
Yeah.
out on the back side of the building,
Yeah.
you're allowed to do it. You just can't get in front.
there'll probably be a big turnout for that.
Right, and so have a
November.
table up there and have all the surveys we've done. So if someone feels they want to take them all, knock yourself out, here they are. That way we're not limiting anybody. We're not, oh, you missed that deadline, sorry. Maybe someone has some answers and they can see how we've gotten more specific with each survey. But again, I think if we can get this one out and one more survey,
Then we gotta look at the way to. tie
like
it
this
together.
one, hopefully we can get out before the June election, right? And then we'll have both surveys out there on paper, or, and like the older surveys, it's gonna have to be done by paper. Sorry, this is a past survey, but you can fill it out, here's the paper. This one you can do online or by paper, you choose.
Some people like to.
And same thing with November, it'll be, here's the 2 old surveys, you're willing to have them in paper and fill them out. Here's a QR code for the recent survey. That way that gives us time to work with Southern Maine Planning. Look at the results we get on this next one, because it's gonna be hitting summer, so it's gonna be a little hard for some of the meetings with, I'm sure, travel and family and whatnot. And then gear up a really good hoorah survey for November that encapsulates everything you kind
Well,
of need to know.
that's gonna be one good opportunity to get to people.
And that might be like a more deeper survey, you know what I'm saying, with maybe some stats.
That
and
should
some
be the
graphs.
last one.
That could be in it, so
Yeah.
we can really work our way up to,
Yeah.
here's a stat, here's a chart, here's these are things worth considering for the comp plan. And to the question we're asking, so they can see.
And what's our timeline to finish this object?
We're not getting it done in a year, I don't think. I mean, I think Southern Maine Planning, with LD 1976, we were looking at 2 years. So, might be less now where we're looking at
Yeah.
status quo. But I think still that way we're not having a fire under our rear end, so we can take it slow and steady, and slow and steady wins the race in my book anyways. And really make sure we're hearing from the people, holding our
It
meetings.
seems like the goal ought to be to have this to maybe, this doesn't have to go to a November election, I don't think, I'm not sure.
No,
But it should be goal to maybe go to June of 25.
I think it would be great, because then we can get through November, get our final surveys in, hold 3 public meetings, call it after the holidays, get through the holidays, January, February, March, there's your once a month meetings, we'll pick date, you know, a weeknight, a weekend. We'll pick different dates the best we
You know,
can.
With that said, I would still rather it go to the November meeting.
I mean, I don't have an objection, you get more,
And
well, see,
that's-
November 26th will be a governor and,
Yeah.
But even if we didn't have to adhere to
Right.
that,
Yeah.
at least, you know, you're still gonna get.
you get more people, I agree with you.
So
You
we
get
can have
more
it
people.
ready to go and ready to roll for 2026. So we could be not disband, but you know, in.
Yeah, no, I think,
At a certain
the
point
thing
in
to do
25.
is to do as much due diligence as possible and then complete the task.
Finish it in 2025
And then
sometime.
and get it over with, because then you can still always make last minute changes, but there's, you know, there's no use.
I think
spinning.
again, from 25 to 26, when they're gonna vote on it, that's when you're like, don't forget the comprehensive plan, if you'd like to review it and study it, here it is, so kind of vote in 26. That gives them almost, you know, not a full year, but it gives them,
Also, it gives,
instead of saying, I didn't know about that.
gives select board and
Oh,
other people a
Yes.
chance to look at it. Budget committee
Yes,
might want to chime in, or somebody, I mean, you never know, and just to give them a little bit of time.
but it gives us that last minute, if LD 1976 comes back again.
I know,
We
I
can
mean-
pump the brakes.
I don't know what the legislature's doing, they're crazy,
I know,
they're nuts at the end of the session.
we don't know, nobody knows anything. I'm not sure who's running the world anymore.
I don't
I'm
think,
just trying to
I
survive.
think
day-
anybody's
I'm trying
running.
to survive day in and day out right now.
I think we bring back Bozo, Captain Kangaroo.
Ronald McDonald.
My thought has always been to have,
Grimace.
I think Disney should create a president and first family. And every few years you bring them out for public events and send them back.
Oh,
Not
I
pay
know.
them anything. Once you pay the upfront cost, you've got them. You can
Darn
have
straight.
it, they could be diverse too, you can make them changeable.
You
So
could, it's
that
changeable.
way,
There
you wouldn't
go.
have to do this all, I mean, I swear, I've never seen it like this, and I'm getting on in age.
I know. I don't know what's happened in this world either.
It's crazy time.
So do we feel pretty good about where we got to?
Yeah, I think let's go with that, and I would also, as long as you're keeping Lindsay informed too, just to make sure we don't have a kickback or anything.
You're gonna block
I am
and
going,
put that more information on the mill rate on
Yep.
that last
Yeah.
question.
That's a
I'm
very
gonna
good-
do survey.
People don't know.
Yeah.
what they have.
Like I said, I mean, everybody's gonna say too high, but if you start looking at everybody else's, then
Well, I
I don't know where we stand in there, but.
I'm pretty sure we're standing in the lower part. I mean, I've always felt that you go to town hall here and pay your taxes, you get your registrations, people are pleasant, they're helpful. You know, it's not, I mean, that's what some people, they don't want anything else, that's all they want.
Yeah.
And the schools, you gotta have the schools, most of our money goes to school, around 70%, 65, 70% goes to school.
And maybe that's something we put in there.
I know, people know that.
Are you in
Maybe-
favor of charter schools?
Oh,
Oh.
that's a good
I
question.
should probably take two
baby.
steps back.
I
That's a
like
good
that.
question.
That's a very good
You know.
question.
Competition is good.
Competition's very good.
Whether you, I went to Catholic schools, but then they were, at that time, they were getting basically free labor from the religious people.
Uh,
Whereas
I
now,
had nuns.
all those nuns
Sister
are
Mary
nasty.
Margaret.
No education?
Nasty.
That too. I tell you what, I came out unsmarter.
Put your hands up and whack you
She
in the floor.
did. You went like this when I walked to your table.
No,
I'm not
actually,
sure if you were-
my high school was the best thing that happened.
Actually, my Catholic school was short-lived, but oh my God, they had the best gym period. We danced and boogied to some good music.
Yeah,
Those nuns were hip hop.
that's funny.
They were the best. But that was New York, New York.
I'll tell you that the priests I had did not put up with anything. They, I mean, if you said, was one guy that could whip on a racer at about 100 miles an hour, you were yakking in class and all of a sudden a racer hit you in the face. And he wasn't apologizing either.
I did not.
Say, do it again, I'll hit you again.
Tell you.
You
The
know,
good old days.
Well, people need to be, you know, but you're in class, you're in class, you're not in class, you're
Yeah.
around. And there was no cell phones too, of course.
Did you actually write that question?
I did. Hey,
That's a good question.
there could be one here, why not? There could be, why not? It's
Is there something blocking starting, besides cost, starting a charter school?
No, but I think it's get the purview because it's part of the comp plan, it's when we're talking
Exactly.
about people's visions, what they want to buy in, what they feel they want here. They keep talking community, they're talking about inclusion, they're talking about making it a change here. They're feeling we're stagnant, so.
That's some truth there,
You
Bob.
know, I know you booted down, but, what do you call it also? I said charter school. You know, a trade school,
Oh,
small trade school.
that is something that's needed.
Yeah, because Massey Music has been talking about building a small one
Yeah,
that does some other things, in conjunction with the one at Sanford and Biddeford that the kids go to. Because right now what's happening is the kids sign up and hope they get the one they want, usually they don't. But there's so many kids dropping out because they need that hands-on.
is there just one in Sanford? Or
Biddeford, and Sanford,
is there one in Biddeford too?
yeah, small one.
I think
But-
that's essential.
But they have to bus the kids there, you know, they're going,
Logistics.
like, I have a nephew that wanted one, wanted to have it together, has a little certificate, never wanted to do that. He doesn't want to do it for a living.
But if you have maybe I'm wrong, but if you have a charter school, you don't need to, there's a lot of things you
Yes.
don't, a lot of red tape you don't have to go
Correct.
through.
Correct.
You know, you don't need the buses. You're paying for it, get there,
Yeah, get your kid.
you know?
We're already getting them there. Their buses are out every day.
Yeah.
We're getting, there's only been 3 days this entire year that we haven't had a bus out. And we haven't had to drive.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, God.
and that's wrong. In the first 2 years of COVID, we had to drive him and pick him up.
What
Good choice.
what do
Good
teachers,
choice.
what do teachers think of charter schools?
I don't know. I haven't asked him. I could ask when I see him.
I'm just curious. You know.
When I go
Well,
out.
it's competition, but I
But
think
it'd
it's
also
good.
be places for them to
Anything.
go to work. It's not like.
Well, I mean,
they're-
it's, you know, if I'm a teacher
and you're skilled.
and I have whatever, 30 people in the class, and you do a charter school, and now all of a sudden I have 22 people in the class, that's not a bad thing.
You know,
Nope, it's not.
Probably
It's
teach,
more,
give more time for the kids that are there.
Yep. Yep.
I think there's more options are the better, as long as they meet whatever the standards are.
Right.
I'm not saying who
Right.
establishes the standards and all that, I'm
like
just
there's the
saying.
new school in Kennybunk. The new school is.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
That's a pretty interesting school. Very outdoorsy based, nature based. It's right on, I think we're one.
A lot of times children do better because they're getting more personal attention.
Yeah.
In a smaller school.
Who turned the light on?
I did, sorry.
No,
I did it a while ago.
I don't remember you getting on.
Ghost.
I'm fast like that. you know.
Oh, like a cat.
All right, well, let me end the, do I have a motion?
Yeah, motion.
To adjourn.
Okay, we got it. All in favor?
Aye.
we go. Excellent meeting, gents. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes. You got any, you working on your campaign?
Well, am I working on